Presiding Officer, I think it's only fair to acknowledge and welcome the amendments, particularly in the name of Annie Wells, and I'm sure Alex Cole-Hamilton will join me in this, and indirectly recognising the work of Lynn, now Baroness Featherstone, who is Parliamentary Under-Secretary for International Development, announced the funding referred to by Ms Wells' motion at the UN Commission for the Status of Women in March 2013. One thing I'd maybe highlight is that this programme is set to end next year, and I hope Annie Wells will urge her colleague Priti Patel, the UK Secretary of State for International Development, to build upon this existing work, and also to continue to encourage our colleagues to continue to work with and to support Ailey Whiteford's private member's bill calling for the UK Government to ratify the Istanbul Convention. I think it's also only fair to acknowledge an amendment in the name of Mary Fee, which highlights the need outlined in the National Action Plan for working with communities to break the cycle of violence. And also just like to acknowledge many of the other speakers in this debate, Alex Cole-Hamilton, Claire Hockey in particular, for their excellent contributions and the overall tenor of this debate as well. Presiding Officer, the Government's motion acknowledges that a preventative approach, a preventative, supportive and legislative approach is crucial to tackling, preventing and eradicating FGM. And I think on all of these, three of these aspects, we are making progress. In terms of legislation, it was only in 1985, the year that I was born, that FGM was made illegal in Scotland through the Prohibition of Female Circumcision Act. While the date of that legislation is relatively recent, it is indicative of the progress made that the term female circumcision is rightfully no longer in common use and is probably far less known nowadays than the term FGM. This is reflected in the more recent 2005 Prohibition of Female Genital Mutilation Scotland Act, and the further strengthening of legislation that, of course, has since occurred as well with the Serious Crime Act in 2015. And I'd also want to highlight that legislative progress has also been made in tackling forced marriage, which, like FGM, can be associated with honour-based violence. The Forced Marriage Protection and Jurisdiction Scotland Act 2011 provides a specific civil remedy for those threatened with forced marriage and those already in such a marriage. And forced marriage in Scotland was recently criminalised in section 122 of the Antisocial Behaviour Crime and Policing Act 2014. Crucially, that act states that a person committing an offence is committing an offence if he or she uses violence, threats or any other form of coercion for the purpose of causing another person to enter into a marriage, and B, believe or ought reasonably to believe that their conduct may cause other person to enter into the marriage without free and full consent. I highlight this because the terms used in that Act are important because they recognise the various and complex ways in which people can be pressured into forced marriages. Presiding Officer, it's clear that we have made progress in legislation on both forced marriage and FGM, and I am encouraged by the work already underway or imminent as set out in the National Action Plan, which constitutes the preventative and supportive aspects of the approach to tackling FGM. Measures undertaken by the Scottish Government include issuing communications to police, education bodies and the NHS. Also, in 2014, the National Guidance for Child Protection was updated to include a specific section providing advice on how to respond if there are concerns that a child may have been subject to or may be at risk from FGM. And of course, there is now a standing operating procedure in place with Police Scotland. Presiding Officer, FGM is perhaps the most overt manifestation of the patriarchy's attempts to dominate, control and possess women. And while FGM has not been historically a traditional cultural practice in Scotland, the fundamentally chauvinistic and misogynistic attitudes that underpin it, FGM and honours-based violence, do evince themselves in domestic abuse, rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment, stalking and commercial sexual exploitation. Those attitudes also evince themselves through sexual discrimination in the workplace and in the gender pay gap, as well as in the societal pressures and expectations that are placed upon girls and women regarding their bodies, their appearance and their role in society. While government, parliament, community leaders and partner organisations all have an important role to play, sustained progress will only be achieved when individual men address and abandon their own Paleolithic attitudes. Writing in the mid-19th century, William Thomson said, "As your bondage has chained down man to ignorance and vices of despotism, so will your liberation reward him with knowledge, with freedom and happiness." Presiding Officer, liberty, knowledge, freedom and happiness are the rights of all human beings. Gender inequality denies those rights to one half of the population and gives the other the illusion of it. We all have a duty to work towards a society where we can all enjoy the same rights and opportunities. Achieving this will not be easy. Max Weber remarked that politics is a strong and slow boring of hard boards. It takes both passion and perspective. But he went on to say that we would not have attained the possible unless time and again we had reached out for the impossible. Eradicating FGM will, as made clear in the National Action Plan, be challenging and complex. But it is a challenge that I have every confidence that this government, this parliament and this country will rise to. In doing so, we will have taken another step towards creating a truly equal society. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.